Welcome to episode 63 of Uncovering the Corners of the World podcast. I'm your host, Karina Kasmala. Using research and my personal experiences where I actually set foot in some of these places, I'll be describing some of the unknown attractions in both the US and around the world. What state in the United States translates to Green Mountain? If you guessed Vermont, you are correct. Vermont is the state we're visiting this week, and its name, Vermont, is the combination of two French words, vert, meaning green, and mont, meaning mountain, which explains the state nickname Green Mountain State. Vermont became the 14th state in 1791. It borders New Hampshire, New York, Massachusetts, and Canada. We start our road trip this week in Derby Line, Vermont, where we browse some books at a library that is both located in the United States and in Canada. This library is sometimes referred to as the only library in the US with no books, and the only opera house in the US with no stage. Located at 93 Caswell Avenue in Derby Line, Vermont, and located at 1 Rue Church in Stansted, Quebec, Canada, is the Haskell Free Library and Opera House. The library and opera house is in a Victorian building that also utilizes the styles from the Gregorian or non-classical movements. Running along the library's wooden floor is a thick black line that divides the library. The entrance to the library is on the US side, but the English and French books are shelved on the Canadian side. Constructed between 1901 and 1904, the Haskell Free Library and Opera House was a gift from Martha Stewart Haskell and her son Colonel Horace Stewart to her late husband, Carlos. Their goal was to create a place for learning and cultural enrichment to border communities. On the second floor of the building is the Opera House that first opened on June 7, 1904. Most of the seats are on the US side, whereas audience members watch the opera show on the Canadian side. The Opera House has a proscenium arch to frame the picturesque stage scenery. The Opera House uses an original drop curtain, scenery, props, and stage machinery. Jazz, blues, folk, bluegrass, rock, classical music, dance, adult and children's theater, as well as public speakers performed on this stage. Today, visitors can visit the library, but it's recommended to bring documentation, as if you were crossing the border. Next, we travel about 64.2 miles, or 1 hour and 22 minutes, to a factory that produces ice cream. If you walk through the freezer aisle section in grocery stores, you are likely to find endless shelves of ice cream, from ice cream sandwiches to ice cream cones to the ones that are sold in pints. But this week, we are focusing on one particular brand of ice cream, Ben & Jerry's. Located at 1281 Waterbury Stowe Road, Route 100 in Waterbury Village Historic District in Vermont, is Ben & Jerry's factory, the only factory that is open to the public for tours. Ben Cohen and Jerry Greenfield are the ice cream founders who created their brand in 1978 Burlington, Vermont. The first ice cream parlor was housed in a renovated gas station. In 1983, Ben & Jerry's started to expand their business, where they opened more ice cream shops and started selling pints in stores. The first flavor that appeared in grocery stores was the chocolate chip cookie dough. Today, Ben & Jerry makes over 50 flavors of ice cream, from its chocolate chip cookie dough and chocolate fudge brownie vanilla flavors, to pumpkin cheesecake, and to brownie batter core, or a brownie batter squished in the center between two ice cream flavors. At the Ben & Jerry's factory, you can get a taste of the in-depth history of the ice cream brand, while seeing how 350,000 pints are made per day. We end our road trip this week by visiting a historic site that showcases the early years of the American Revolution. Located at 472 Mount Independence Road in Orwell, Vermont, is Mount Independence State Historic Site. During 1776, soldiers held a defensive position at Mount Independence, formerly called East Point or Rattlesnake Hill. By October 1776, 3 brigades formed encampments at Mount Independence, with 12,000 assembled soldiers assembling a fort and expecting an attack from the British. However, British soldiers withdrew and decided to retreat to Canada for the winter. In June, the British advanced again towards Mount Independence and strategically blocked off a now smaller American army, which caused the Americans to withdraw. While Americans made attempts to capture their forts, they failed until October 1777, when the British were defeated at Saratoga and abandoned Mount Independence. During 1777, Vermont also declared independence from New York, and for 14 years functioned as its own independent republic, separate from the United States. The Vermont Republic had its own currency, postal service, constitution, and president until 1791, when it joined the Union and became a state. Fast forward to 2023, and today you can hike along Mount Independence historic sites for trails: the Baldwin Trail, the Southern Defenses Trail, Orange Trail, and Blue Trail. On these trails, you can see exhibits featuring a 3,000-pound cannon made in Scotland in the 1690s, an engraved powder horn owned by a soldier at the Mount in the 1770s, and more. The Baldwin Trail leads you through 2 brigade encampments, a probable powder magazine, 2 soldier huts, 2 blockhouses, a storehouse, and more, all while taking in the breathtaking views of Lake Champlain. The Orange Trail leads you to evidence that Native Americans were at one point at Mount Independence, and a view of Fort Ticonderoga, located in New York. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. If you're interested in learning more about the Haskell Free Library and Opera House, check out the website haskellopera.com. To find out more about the Ben & Jerry's factory tour in Waterbury, Vermont, visit the website www.benjerry.com/aboutus/factory tours. Also, if you want to read more about the history of Ben & Jerry's, read the article, The Ice Cream and Activism-Filled History of Ben & Jerry's, on the Thrillist website. Lastly, if you are thinking about Mount Independence and want to read more about its history, check out the website historicsites.vermont.gov. Have a great week.